Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Wednesday, April 19th. Days are just flying by. 2023. It's about 12:13 p.m. here along the West Coast. Supposed to be about 70 degrees today here, so we're looking at some pretty nice weather here in California. The latest quake here shows a 3.0 into the area of Chile, South America region. Let's go ahead and check out what's going on up here, including some weird earthquake activity off the coast here of the eastern portion of the country. Let's see what's going on as we look at the last 24 hours here of earthquake activity. Here's a little bit of movement up here off the coast of, again, the United States, a 4.5 coming into the area about 9 o'clock this morning into the, what is that? Hatteras Plain area. It looks like there's a couple different ridges. We do have the Bermuda Island area out here with Hamilton, very small island out into the Atlantic. But this earthquake here is a rather strange one and a little head scratcher out here for sure. 4.5, 10 kilometers deep. Historical data shows nothing in that area for any type of earthquake activity, at least 4.5 and above. So this is definitely a rather odd one. Looking out further into the Atlantic, it looks like there is a little bit of movement out there historically, out around the Bermuda area. Excuse me. That's what I meant to say. So yeah, just a little odd earthquake activity kicking up today in that region. Let's see if there's any mention of it from the USGS. Doesn't look like it. I doubt if one person felt it out there unless they're on a boat. Even then, I don't even know if they would. 10 kilometers deep there. The defaulted depth of that earthquake has been reviewed by a seismologist. Either way, that's an odd one. Let me tell you. I have to look more into that a little bit later. All right, further down south into the Puerto Rico area. Seeing a pretty good swarm of movement here. Most of this, though, from yesterday, so things kind of tapered off down here around the Puerto Rico Trench for now. Same with the Middle America Trench over here. We did see a 5.2 from last night. Nothing really showing up there above the 4.5 threshold today. If you look at most of the movement here on the globe, shows older activity here across the region. Looks as though the EMSC may be reporting that earthquake here off the coast of the eastern portion of the states as a 4.7. USGS, I believe, keeping this at a 4.5. So either way, a legit earthquake showing up out there today. Further up into the states, Oklahoma rocking and rolling this morning out around Enid and the Stillwater area. Couple earthquakes here. The latest one shows a 3.3 just outside west of Enid area. A very shallow earthquake, 1.6 kilometers below the surface there. Nobody felt that earthquake, but looks like it did take place. Look at the satellite view out here. Sometimes we'll see all these oil pumping operations in the mix of all these quakes, but kind of hard to tell currently in this type of vegetation here. If there's any specific operations out here. I'm sure there is, because they are mentioned and they're noteworthy all across the map. Ringwood oil field, southeast Cheney Dale oil field. So yeah, I'd say there's some oil fields out there. And that's where most of the earthquake activity happening there today. Also down into the Texas region. This activity from yesterday in New Mexico as well, couple twos. Let's see, what do we got here for the West Coast? Southern California, the latest earthquake here on the San Jacinto fault zone, a 1.1. Doesn't look like we're seeing anything too drastic out here today. Only one earthquake up north here from yesterday, above the 2.5 threshold. That's going to be a 2.6 from, again, yesterday. The rest of the all magnitudes map up here outside of Seattle. Got one earthquake here coming in. Again, from yesterday, not a whole lot of activity out here across the West Coast for now. But continue to watch that, considering all the tremor event along the Cascadia here ramping up. And by the way, Cascadia tremor last night, Coming in at 569 epicenters of tremor. Two separate distinct locations up here into the Washington and Vancouver Island range. And also another spot down into the southern Oregon and a little bit here in Northern California. So still noticing the uptick here on the tremor bar. Watching here for this thing to be elevated soon. We could peak out here around 800 or 900 epicenters in a day. So we'll see what that looks like a little bit later this evening once they put out the update. All right, Yellowstone National Park doesn't look like too much activity up here, but you know me, I want to double check, make sure. So we're going to go to the raw, live, or recorded data. And doesn't look like too much. One little earthquake down here. Looks like it's more centered around the Moose Creek, Idaho area. A little spike here on the Yellowstone graph. But aside from that, no major swarm kicking off here. Only a handful of smaller, very small microquakes over the last 24 hours. Not a whole lot going on. All right, backing out of here. It's just weird to see that earthquake out here. That's a rather odd one. I'd like to see if anyone knows specifically about that, because I'm very unfamiliar with the these odd earthquakes occurring off the East Coast. Very strange. Alaska area, you know, got about the same stuff as we've seen here over the last few weeks or so. No major uptick here. This is a 2.5 map and above. Shows a handful of earthquakes out there across the Alaska region. The Aleutian Trench, fairly quiet for now. Kuril-Kamchatka Trench as well. Double check here with the EMSC model. I'm really not seeing anything spectacular going on here across the Western Pacific until, of course, we get down south here. It's been fairly active again, including a 6-pointer down here around the Papua New Guinea area. 6.3 coming in very early in the morning, about 2 o'clock or so, north of the Solomon Sea, 55 kilometers deep. Of course, that makes number, let's see here. What do we have for earthquake magnitudes out here? Did see that 7-pointer over here around the Java Sea. Super deep, 6.7. Today's 6.3. That was kind of our middle ground between these two larger quakes, so that would kind of make sense there, considering this area. Even though it's fairly active, it does put it within that middle section of the two larger quakes to fill in somewhat of that seismic gap. So looking at any further seismic gaps here, there's still some regions here across the Java Trench and northward around the Andaman Sea that need to fill in as well. New Zealand has not seen too much activity out here, and I'm really expecting that to kick up here. Looks like 3.8, I believe that's from yesterday down here, South Island. Let's go ahead and double check that here real quick from the GeoNet servers. 3.8, that was actually 5 hours ago. Okay, so we had looks like a secondary 3-pointer, because I know we had one last night. 3.8 down there along the, looks like it's just off the Alpine Fault. Let's see what we have here for the earthquake drums. Showing up a little bit here. Mostly centered here, as you can see as we head down south here, and also down on this web page, you can see it showing up more prominently across the Yellowstone, or the seismograph stations here. Looks like there's a couple smaller aftershocks following that 3.8 right here. So a little bit of uptick here across the South Island, New Zealand, but I expect that to pick up. Look at the volcanic drums. Not showing too much activity out here. No major swarms. Taupo supervolcano, pretty quiet for now. Right, let's go back here to the current map. See what else we have. The big island of Hawaii lighting up slightly. Mostly around the Pahala area with a 2.1, but if we zoom in here to Kīlauea Volcano, looks like these guys are kicking up a swarm again down there, considering where we could see some magma on the move with depths there between 1 and 2 kilometers or so. Let's go ahead and check out the most recent hazard notification system here from the USGS. Kind of curious to see if they've just still got that update here from yesterday. They really didn't mention too much about the earthquake swarm, which is a little odd. Let me see what we have here. Kīlauea Volcano. Let's check out these seismographs here ourselves. Let's see if we can see what's going on here. Here's the tilt meters. See if any of these are working. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Most of the time they're not functionable. I don't know why, but there's like no data coming in here. That station's non-operational as well. Here's a tilt meter up on the northwestern flank there, but man, goodness. So we got 1 out of 10 stations working. Woo! Alrighty, so let's check out the last 2 days. Well, this is more than 2 days. Here's the inflation. Looks like that may have kicked back up here around the 11th. So we're looking at almost over a week time period. And since that week time period, we've seen elevated earthquake activity here across Kīlauea Volcano, which would indicate some magma intrusion below. That's exactly what I'm seeing here with that tilt meter, consistent with the earthquake activity at those respected depths there. Let me see what we got for the seismograph. Excuse me. Hopefully these are online. Maybe some of them are, but the most important ones we're looking for are offline. GPS, we'll check this out here real quick. That may show something as far as months back, but there's a little bit of uptick there since about February. GPS is definitely going to show more of a historical graph here. Still showing some uptick there. Uplift, I should say. Let me see if I can find that seismograph station here. Offline, offline, offline. Good job, USGS. Somebody's got to get in there and fix these graphs. Seriously. This is slightly ridiculous. There we go. There's past 12 hours here at one of the stations. This is the earthquake activity occurring around the Kīlauea volcano. But also at the same time, it could be picking up some of the larger quakes down south into the Pahala area, which sits, not that far away. That's kind of why I wanted to look at some of the more distinct localized graphs, but I guess we're just going to have to work with this one. Either way, some earthquake activity showing up, and the USGS is reporting on that earthquake data. It looks like 29 earthquakes here at the Kīlauea volcano, mostly on the south end of it, kind of the southern end, but these depths they're down there. That's where we expect the magma and whatnot to be on the move. So we'll continue to watch this, see if this turns into something active here in the coming days. All right, moving on here. Let's see here. There's a pretty shallow 4.6 or 4.5. Well, 4.6. I'll get it right. I was thinking about yesterday here, the day before, we had some deeper movement, but that was a little bit further down south. Still waiting to see some further shallower earthquake activity along the Mariana Trench, considering that deeper movement quake we've seen here a day or so ago. All right, what else we got? 2.7, the latest quake coming in here, looks like into the Indonesia area, right? Quite a big cluster of earthquakes here across the region today. Again, wanting to make its momentum here across the western portion here along the plate boundary. Continue to watch that for some further movement. Latest quake looks like 4.4 coming in about 10 o'clock or so south of the Andaman Sea area into the Java Trench northern end at 121 kilometers deep. Not a whole lot going on across this area of the world, and looks to be true here on the Earthquake 3D globe as well. Not a whole lot of activity, just some smaller 2s and 3s. It's amazing how many earthquakes they've had there in Turkey. I can only imagine. I may have to bring up a tally here and see exactly how many earthquakes have taken place there since those large events there a couple months back now, a few months back now, right? Probably a couple months back. Either way, probably up there into the, I don't know, I don't even want to take a guess here. It's probably way up there, but we'll check on that a little bit later. All right, what else do we have here, folks? Besides from a couple oddball earthquakes, one thing I've noticed here is a lack of earthquake activity across the Atlantic. You guys notice that? It's been awfully dead quiet. Should have seen at least some earthquake activity out here along the divergent boundary, so something's going on. All right. Well, let's see what we got for space weather activity here as we look at the latest info here from solarham.net. A trail of sunspots stretching across the visible disk here. But even notice today here, most of these sunspot regions are degrading right before our very eyes. Not looking fairly promising at all for any major flaring. Unfortunately, if you like space weather activity and the auroras and whatnot, this is something you don't want to see. You want to see more active regions here. But either way, we got sunspots. They're just not in the right form. Did have a little elevated conditions here from a prior small CME that's been kicking up. A little bit of geomagnetic activity at the higher latitudes, reaching up to around, looks like about the KP index of 4 yesterday. About the same here today. A little bit of declining over the last couple hours, but that has been adding on to a little bit of elevated auroras at the higher latitudes. Nothing spectacular. 60% chance there of seeing that at the higher latitudes, but overall we're not really expecting anything major to kick up there in terms of the aurora. And yeah, these guys still have 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at 40, X flare at 10. I say that's slightly elevated because, to be honest, I'm not seeing anything out here that would warrant those type of forecasts. Alrighty, let's see, space weather activity here today across the, well, Central Plains area. Talking about Kansas, portions of Nebraska up here as well. Stretching into, looks like Iowa getting in on a little bit of the activity as well. For enhanced severe weather risk with a 5% chance for a tornado possibility here today. Looks like the main threat's going to be some damaging wind and some heavy-duty hail out there with a 30% chance and a significant severe possibility there in the Hatch area. So heads up if you're out there. Either way, some of these regions need some much-needed rainfall, and it looks like they're going to get a little bit. Again, that's for today. Over the next couple days, that weather tends to shift to the east and south a little bit there before we before it looks like it dries out there in the plains. But hopefully things will kick back up a little bit there, and they can get some much needed moisture for the folks out there. And what do we got here for temperature wise? Temperature anomaly. Here is the forecast. Look at the West Coast. Look at California right there. We're going to start cooking. In fact, we're supposed to have highs up in the upper 80s here. As we head towards the weekend and next week, things are really going to cook. There is a colder blast of air coming down here into the Dakotas, south into the Central Plains. Notice here on the map, the kind of purplish, indicating the departure from normal. So much colder environments coming in here as we head into the end of April, it looks like. That's going to stick around for a little bit while the West Coast bakes out here, literally. Look at that. But you know what? After this long winter, much needed wet winter here in California, I'll take these warmer temperatures. I'm not even joking. Normally I wouldn't say that because we often have dry winters where it's miserable to have 80s and 90s already. So we'll take it. It helped everything grow, that's for sure. Colder environments here across the eastern portion of the country as we head again into the end of April. Goodness, that is a strong ridge of high pressure. Parked, looks like, around the Oregon area. So we're going to cook, folks. And if you like the warmer weather, well, it's coming. Looks like that's going to stick around for a little bit on the... Let's see what we got as we head into May. Looks like another push of colder air here for the Southern Plains area. Pacific Northwest is just staying in that heat. So kind of an odd deal here with these setups. So sometimes it's colder air meeting the warmer environment, depending on how much Gulf moisture is being flown up here, funneled up into the area. This could basically spell some severe weather threats with that interaction into the first week of May. But we'll keep an eye on this, right, and see how it plays out. Either way, West Coast, get ready for some warm temperatures, let me tell you. Looks like that's going to be a thing coming up. Let's see what we got. Temperatures here as we head into the weekend. Let's check it out, about 4 o'clock or so. Northern California, highs in the lower 80s. Can't really beat that, can you? And next week or so, Monday, it looks like 70s or so. I know I've seen some hotter temperatures, though, than what they're stating here on the windy map. There we go. Getting into the upper 80s around Redding, Chico area. And it looks as though that's going to last for a little while. So get used to it. Alrighty, guys. Have a good one. Stay safe out there. We're going to... might try to get some yard work done before the heat comes in. It's supposed to be, again, 70 degrees. I'll take 70 right now when I'm outside doing some yard work over it being 90. A little bit easier. Alrighty. Have a good one. See what we got here on the graphs. Some of these have been intermittent. In fact, I've had the whole program just completely crash on me here the past couple days. I'm not for sure what's going on with the seismograph viewer, but I'm keeping an eye on it. And if it does crash again, of course, we'll fire it back up and keep these live data stations coming in. But looks like I've lost my PB stations, the plate boundary stations there for Northern Cal and also the Yellowstone area. But we'll keep checking back here, seeing if they come back online. There's a 5.3 that just came in. I noticed that signature showing up on the Japan station right about here. Notice that 5-pointer. 5.3 coming into the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench at northern end. Looks like that earthquake just coming in within the last couple minutes. 33 kilometers deep. Because I know that wasn't there, right? We just did the update and that was lacking activity. Looks as though that's going to fill in a little bit here. We'll keep an eye on the Kuril-Kamchatka. It's definitely on my list here of seeing some larger scale movement soon. We'll catch you folks a little bit later. Have a good one. Stay safe out there. Take care.